In the hours before dawn, Jerusalem felt like a wounded instrument. Every street a tense string, every whisper a trembling note. Above the city, unseen by human eyes, the veil between the mortal world and the eternal kingdom thinned like mist, pressed by a coming storm. The trial of silence. Inside Pilate's court, Jesus stood not merely as a man, but as a quiet earthquake. Every accusation hurled at him fell the way stones fall on water, sinking without sound, swallowed by the depth of his composure. Matthew 27, Mark 15, Luke 23, John 19. Pilate kept staring at him, not out of authority but out of fear, because deep within he sensed something ungovernable. Jesus was the only one in the room not bound by time. He looked at Pilate as though he had seen him centuries before, and would see him again long after kingdoms collapsed. Still the crowd roared, and heaven watched in silence. The road that remembered as Jesus carried the cross, the stones beneath his feet awakened. Every drop of his blood that touched the ground pulsed like a heartbeat. Some said later that the earth trembled because of the weight of the cross. But the truth was stranger. Creation recognized its maker's footsteps, and the soil shook in grief. Women wept, soldiers mocked, yet the atmosphere around him had a strange clarity, as if sorrow and glory were walking side by side. Golgotha, the convergence point. When the nails were driven, the sound did not echo outward. It echoed inward, into the spiritual realm, splitting ancient darkness. As he hung between two criminals, time itself bent. The repentant thief saw something no one else did. Not a dying man, but a king whose throne existed beyond the horizon of death. And Jesus, with breath slipping like a fading candle, opened eternity. Today you will be with me in paradise. At noon, light vanished. The sun withdrew, but not from fear, from reverence. Heaven held its breath, earth trembled, and the temple veil tore, not as fabric tears, but as a boundary defeated. The moment the world exhaled when Jesus said, "It is finished," the words traveled like a command through every layer of creation. Chains broke in unseen realms. Old prophecies inhaled their fulfillment. Death felt the first crack in its throne, and the world exhaled as the Son of God entered the grave. The resurrection when dawn bowed. The third morning was not like other mornings. The air was sharper, expectant. Inside the sealed tomb, the silence was total, until a pulse of light began to form, not shining from outside in, but exploding from inside out. The body that lay still began to breathe, not as flesh only, but as the firstborn of a new creation. The stone didn't roll away so he could leave. It rolled away so witnesses could see the impossible had occurred. The guards fell like shadows fleeing from dawn, and Jesus stepped into the morning with the quiet authority of someone who had walked through the corridors of death and returned with the keys. The encounters that changed history. Mary Magdalene came with sorrow heavy enough to break her voice. But when he called her name, Mary, the entire universe seemed to shift, because the risen Savior had spoken identity back into a broken heart. On the road to Emmaus, 2 disciples walked with him, not knowing that the rhythm of his footsteps was the same rhythm that shaped galaxies. And later, when he appeared among his disciples, walls did not hinder him, fear did not intimidate him. He breathed on them, and the breath carried the power of a new world. The rising that never ends. The crucifixion shattered darkness. The resurrection rewrote reality. And ever since that morning, time itself has been counting forward, not from creation, but from an empty tomb. For death lost its vocabulary, and Jesus, the crucified and risen one, stands forever as the Lamb who was slain, the King who lives, and the Savior who has no equal. If you love God, like and subscribe for more stories like this. God bless you.